All right, shall we get started then? So my name's James. I'm a partner at ZVC. So today's panel is about F&B. I think it's a topic that everyone here can obviously relate to. So looking very much forward to having this panel. Just to set the context a little bit. So, we have a group of panelists here basically covering, a fairly wide range of segments and target demographics within F&B in Indonesia. And we will be uncovering what's next in F&B in Indonesia. I'll let the panelists introduce themselves in a second, but just to briefly cover some high-level market context. So F&B in Indonesia, the market size is about $29 billion USD in size, with the top three QSR brands, namely Yum Brands, McDonald's, and Starbucks, taking about 1/3 of the market share here. The remaining 2/3 is composed of mostly smaller players, taking less than 1% market share each. There has obviously been a very, very fast-growing interest in the F&B space among Indonesian investors. So we will be diving into why F&B is an interesting space. We'll also discuss some of the challenges and opportunities in the space and gather perspectives, even on the exit landscape that we foresee here in Indonesia. So with that, I guess we could start with Bevin here on a quick introduction, maybe spend 1 to 2 minutes.
Sure. Hello. So I'm Bevin Desker, co-founder, CEO of Har Chicken. So Har Chicken is a Singaporean-style fast food takeaway kiosk serving Ha Cheong Kai, which is prawn-paste chicken using fermented shrimp paste in the marinade of the fried chicken. My partner in the middle is chef owner of one of the top 100 restaurants in the world, Restaurant Labyrinth. He has a Michelin star. And on the left, that's Leonard. He's one of the top food influencers in Singapore. I think he has about 1 million TikTok followers. So we came together to start this, create a brand which we believe has the potential to scale in Singapore and then across Southeast Asia as well, given everyone's love for fried chicken.
All right, Bram, do you want to?
Hi, I'm Bram. I'm representing two companies, ISMAYA Group. These are the brands that are under ISMAYA Group. We've been around for 20 plus years. So we both, next slide, I guess. We have three main divisions in ISMAYA: the restaurant divisions, which is the replicable concepts in the mall; the lifestyle divisions, which is more for the premium brands; and we also have ISMAYA Life that runs big events in Indonesia. We might as well take the forum to promote my new brands. So Baku is an SCBD, guys, great food, Asian food, and Charcoal is a degustation menu based on primitive cooking. So please come. Might as well just try to get you guys to come. And next one is actually another company that I started about 2 years ago, which basically is creating mass dining concepts for the super mass market. Yeah, so you can see here we are selling a very affordable ramen bowl for 12,500. We have 10 stores, started 6 months ago, and we're doing really well. So basically, the idea for Suka is replicating the success of ISMAYA, but at the super mass level. Thank you, guys.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alvin. Currently, we are building UENA. We see the gap in the daily food landscape in Indonesia, where currently the mass market are buying the food from the street food vendors, which is fragmented and low quality. So we want to, while the next upgrade is actually restaurants, which is quite expensive and not affordable. So we are building UENA as the daily food solutions for the mass market in Indonesia. Maybe next slide. We are selling the most favorite food for the mass market of Indonesians. You can say like the noodles, the soup, and the fried chickens. And next, also we are offering it, of course, at an amazing quality, good hygiene, and also good experience. So we hope that we will be the new favorite solutions for the daily food in Indonesia for the mass market. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Adrien from SaladStop. We started SaladStop in 2009 in Singapore. We are today 75 stores across 7 markets. We also launched another brand in 2019. Sorry, maybe next 2 slides. Yeah, so that's SaladStop. And then Heybo was launched in 2019, focusing more on the warm grain bowl concept. So, sorry, next slide. Yep. And then most recently, Wuxi. So we're today a multi-brand portfolio, still focusing obviously on healthy food, but allowing us to deepen our footprint in markets like Indonesia. So today in Indonesia, we have 25 stores. We would be looking to obviously enter second-tier cities with SaladStop. But now with these new brands, we're obviously able to address a larger audience, and a big focus for us, and I guess we'll dive into that later, but this is on technology. So we have invested quite a bit on the ordering experience for both SaladStop and the other brands.
Cool, thank you. So I'll jump right into the first question. So it's really hard to talk about F&B or offline retail without talking about the impact from COVID-19 over the past 4 years, I guess, right? So let me start with a question on how has consumer behavior changed or evolved during and following COVID? First of all, has demand actually recovered to pre-COVID levels over the years? Or are you still seeing some challenges today? And are there any noticeable changes in consumer behavior in terms of like how consumers dine as a result of COVID? So maybe you can start with Bram.
Well, I think, COVID is definitely devastating for the F&B business. I think of COVID as a flowing river, and the bigger you are, the faster you sink. And at that point in time, we had close to 100 outlets in ISMAYA, and it wasn't easy to navigate. So during COVID, we basically focused on three main pillars. One is digital transformation. So we created our new customer loyalty app so that we get to know our customers better, to enhance the engagement with customers. Number 2, definitely the operational efficiency. So we short-listed our menu, focus on cost-efficient products, focus on products that are good for takeaway and delivery. And finally, continue building the trust with the customers. So in terms of hygiene standards, safety standards for both our customers and for our staffs. Definitely some brands recover faster than others. Some brands probably not going to make it, to be honest with you. But at the end of the day, that's how F&B is. It changed. I think in terms of the brand that recover faster for us are brands that actually has more social interactions, because I think that's what people are missing during COVID. So after COVID is over, they like to be in an ambient where they are more socializing involvement with the other people.
Got it. Adrien, what about you? Have you been noticing any big consumer changes?
We operate in Indonesia, and I think it's apt that this room is called resilience, because I think we all had to sort of get through that. And I think every market obviously went through their own ups and downs, and we unfortunately didn't get to travel, so we were sort of operating this from Singapore. But I think in Indonesia, what we were able to do is actually pivot towards cloud kitchens very quickly. So we actually opened 10 cloud kitchens with Grab and Gojek during that time. And that allowed us to test the outskirts of central Jakarta. So we were open in Depok and Tangerang and places that we were not sure of, but that model obviously allowed us to do it without investing much into terms of capex. And since then, we've actually transformed all those locations into physical stores. So we've almost sort of doubled in revenues because we were able to keep that online piece and benefit from the foot traffic from the malls. I think going back to your question, I think the biggest shift we've seen from at least our customers is that I guess it's sort of split into convenience and experience, I guess, to what Bram was saying. In terms of convenience, I think we see them obviously still wanting to order delivery, especially our product is very delivery friendly, but they also expect that convenience in store. So, we focused a lot on our pre-ordering app and the digital experience in the store. So as an example, in Singapore now, all of our stores are built with a new solution called the Digital Ledge, which is our way of taking your order. So if you've experienced the concept in Jakarta, today we do that still quite manually. In Singapore, that's a full digital experience, and we actually walk you through the menu with an interface, basically. And that extends all the way to the point where a customer can now check in, and we can ask them, okay, what's your favorite? And it becomes a very fast forward process. So I think, again, trying to continuously bridge that gap between sort of convenience and also providing a potentially a great experience for the end user.
Got it. Bevin, Alvin, anything to add?
Yeah, so I think for COVID, of course, the biggest impact was the change in mindset on delivery, how there's a lot more acceptance amongst almost the entire population for delivery, a bit more allowance in terms of expectation for products when they receive it. People are used to consuming delivery food, so they know something like for us, fried chicken is not going to be as crispy when delivered as it is when you're eating it fresh from the store. But I think the other thing that changed with COVID is the supply chain. So we've had a lot of cost inflation across the F&B space. I think historically how a lot of F&B react to cost increases is through smaller changes or things like shrinkflation. That doesn't really work in this type of environment. We've seen as we were getting ready to launch our brand, quite a few fast food brands start to deteriorate as they were approaching the cost inflation by shrinking the size of their products, because consumers could tell right away. So I think at the end of the day, it's still the consumer expectation is that the quality of product remains the same. You can't hike up prices too much, but there is some ability for consumers to accept the higher prices because they can see how prices are increasing across the board.
Yeah, I think in general it's kind of similar. But for us, basically the mindset is even during the COVID, our mindset is always like people still need to eat, right? But there's still some changes, and also there's something that's we need to adapt. For example, like number one, as the other guys mentioned, the quality, the channels. But also one of the things for us is also the marketing theme. Back then, during the COVID, one of the theme that rise up is more on the CSR, right? How to actually help these Gojek drivers and all the workers. So we do a lot of marketings, we do a lot of partnerships with a lot of other parties to actually do a lot of campaigns, which not only actually boost the awareness, but also help the communities and help the other workers as well. And also in terms of the trends changes in the trends is also the same. I think people are getting more and more comfortable for the omnichannel. So before, like it was very heavy on the offline, and they are very hesitant to actually cross between the channels. But I think right now, with the penetration of the digital channels, they are more comfortable either to order the app and take it on the stores, or order on the app and get it delivered. So I think the omnichannel actually changes a lot of behaviors from the customers.
Got it. Thank you. So next question, I want to briefly cover how each of you are differentiating in the market. So F&B is typically perceived as a sector with low barriers to entry. How do you ensure that you have concept sustainability and scalability amidst rising competition? Maybe we can start with you, Bram, again. You have 19 brands, 100 outlets with various concepts. How do you ensure quality scaling as you expand?
Well, what I tell my staff is that we have to love our brands, but sometimes there are times where we have to let go of certain brands. As you can see, I mean, there are certain brands in the US, Taco Bell, for example, that, when you go to the US, it used to be happening, but when you go there now, it's not happening anymore. But ultimately, when it comes to F&B, it's all about the products, yeah? And, you're right, it has a very low barrier of entry. And what I tell my team is that ultimately, when it comes to F&B, you have to be very adaptive because the culture, the taste palette of people changes. And you have to be staying ahead of the trend. In fact, reading ahead of the trends. But when it comes to F&B, it's all about the product. And the product means the food and the service, okay? And it's not about creating a great experience, but you have to be consistent about it. So I have a rule within my company that is a 20-80 rule, okay? Ultimately, every brand must have a hero products. So 20% of my menu should represent 80% of my sales. It's not about having a big menu. It's about having a concise menu, right? And you can have the staff being able to do it consistently. So that's basically the pillar of ISMAYA, where we have 20 products for every concept we create, representing 80% of the sales. And we focus on the centralized production of these 20% of the products. Because ultimately, when you depend on the process, depending too much on the chef, you're not going to be consistent. Even if the recipe is there, they can have a good day, they can have a bad day, the food will be different. But when we can centralize the productions of the hero product specifically, then at least you get a better, consistency of the product. And when it comes to, F&B again, I always tell my team, the marketing is just a catalyst. Okay, great products with no marketing, eventually people will know about it. But if you actually have a bad product and great marketing, more people knows about your bad products quickly. Okay, so ultimately I said, listen, if you don't have good products, don't bother spending a lot of money marketing. It's just going to be more people disappointed. But if you have a great product, spend as much as you can on marketing, especially in the early stage of the launch of the products, so that you basically ramp up quickly and that people get to know your products.
Adrien, we understand that sustainability is a pretty big differentiation point for SaladStop. Can you perhaps share some examples on how your sustainability efforts have helped the company or impacted the company at a broad level?
Sure. I think sustainability means something quite different in each of the markets we operate. So I think we adapt quite considerably. In Singapore, as an example, we opened our first net zero store. So it's 100% net zero. It was a 2-year journey for us to get to that point. We're B Corp in Singapore. So I think we really pushed the envelope in a market that's more mature and maybe more receptive to that. In places like Indonesia, I think we boil it down really. And I mean, this transcends, I guess, through every market, is looking at the health of the customer first. Because I think for us, if we're able to connect with them on that level, and again, that also means something different to everyone, then we can sort of tie it to the sustainability. At least that's how we think of it, right? So if I'm telling you that, this product is great for you because it's double in antioxidants, and by the way, it's sourced 20 kilometers from here and it uses 80% less water, I can start tying the story together and kind of quantifying that impact. So for us, it's a long-term journey. I think for a lot of our customers, it's and even within the market, I think we break that down by awareness and I think responsiveness. So I think we are constantly adapting, constantly trying new things. In Singapore, as an example, the last Friday of the month, we don't serve you unless you bring your own bowl, which is really extreme and gets quite a few customers upset. But that's how we sort of challenge the status quo, and we feel we can be that rebel brand in that sense. And what we do see again across markets is that customers appreciate that we stand for something. So I think that kind of identity that we have now, cemented in their minds, I think, is working out well.
Very good. And Alvin, I know you're tackling the hyper-local market and creating technically a brand that caters to the mass market, right? And this is oftentimes, I guess, considered a segment that's very, very difficult to build brand loyalty. How are you addressing some of these challenges around brand loyalty? And what are, I guess, some of the strategies that you're taking to achieve this?
I think one of the most important thing for us is to also understand in the mind of the customers what our food represents. Because to be honest, like one thing that is important and interesting about food, it's never about the function of the food, right? People don't buy the food just to actually fill the tummy. So for us as well, even though we are selling like daily food, there's still some meaning that we actually put into it. Of course, for us is 2 things. Number 1 is value for money, and number 2 is convenience. So for us, everything that we do in terms of the projects that we done, the menu that we launch is always have to be consistent into what we mean with to the customers. Yeah, and for the hyperlocal, also number 1 is like our outlets are always serving a local neighborhood. So meaning that our outlets become like a community center and also a proper dining experience for the people in the area.
Got it. And lastly, Bevin, I understand you have a Michelin star chef on your team. How has this impacted or helped out the company as a differentiation point? It obviously does seem like a pretty big differentiation point.
Yeah. So for us, one of my co-founders is a chef owner of a Michelin starred restaurant. I think the biggest difference is that he's able to make micro adjustments to the recipe, to our product, depending on issues that we might have with suppliers, feedback that we get from our customers. So we see that as a big advantage relative to especially some of the more traditional QSRs, where they have a fixed recipe which is done well, but they find it hard to adapt when there are changes in consumer preferences. One of the things that we're very cognizant of is that there's always going to be changes in consumer preferences as we go into other markets. There will also be changes in preferences, and so we need to be able to adapt to that. And because he's a business owner as well, not just the chef, so he's able to apply his creativity in a measured and practical way to make sure that it still makes sense for the business. So I think that's the biggest impact.
Very good. And this is a bit of an open question for all of you, kind of focusing on this differentiation point again. But what role, if any, does technology actually play in your brand's differentiation strategy or growth strategy? So like, have you, as founders, considered to invest more in technology in the future ahead?
Yeah, at least for us, I mean, we're a big believer in building the technology that is the customer-facing side. I think back-end technology we get off the shelf, but that end-user experience, how we capture data, how we're able to re-engage with them is hugely important to us. And being able to scale that across markets and consolidate that is we're big believers. And I mean, for us, 66% of our business is digital today. And 20% of that comes through our own app with pre-order. So, and that's just the beginning. We see a lot more people now just wanting to engage with the technology that we've built because we've custom built it for our product operations and the type of customer we serve.
Yeah, I think for us as well, because we're basically selling like $1 menu. So for us, like efficiency and economy of scale is very important. So that's where technology comes in. We have to make sure we do a lot of operation based on data to make sure that we actually reduce waste and yield and everything to the minimum, so we can actually pass along the efficiencies and also pass along the savings that we get to the customers. So we do a lot of things at the back end as well for the operations, the supply chain and everything by data to actually make sure that we get the most efficient operation possible.
Yeah, I completely agree. At the end of the day, it's about knowing your customers. And, that's why we also, in ISMAYA, we built a new customer loyalty app. But I think one thing that I really want to emphasize about technology, though, is that, absolutely, extremely important to embrace technology, especially when you want to scale up the business. But at the end of the day, though, one thing that I want to stress to investors, well, at the end of the day, it is still F&B. So it is food first and tech second. It is a tech-enabled. You have to be tech-enabled company to scale the business. But ultimately, the touch point to the customers is the food. So you can have the best technology, unbelievable technology, but if the touch point to the customers are not there to satisfy the customers, you're not going to get anything.
Yeah, so for us, I think technology is starting to become a hygiene factor for F&B. You need to have the customer data. You need to have the supply chain technology so that you can do your analytics and make sure that your operations are efficient. But also the nature of F&B is that our margins are limited. So there's also limited opportunity or limited ability for us to invest in technology at an individual brand level that can match the quality of technology that can be provided by some of our technology partners. So at least at an early stage for a new venture, the way to go has to be to use third-party technology until you're at a scale where you can start to invest in that for your own product stack.
But I think if I can add something regarding technology. So in ISMAYA and Legit, we created, AI is a sexy thing, right? Everybody talks about AI, it's sexy in the technology world. But we actually use it, right? So, I mean, you can imagine, Legit used to be a cloud kitchen, okay? We operate 50 plus outlets, 4 brands, 3 aggregators. You're dealing with 100 plus, Google review, right? So it is almost impossible for you to assign someone to have a look at every single Google review because your ratings has to do with a lot of people ordering from your stores. So you gotta make sure it's there. You have to address the problems that are, shown on the Google review. So what we did is we actually used technology. We basically, what the tech people will scrap the data right? And feed it to the AI world. And then this machine then basically, differentiate those comments that are positive, negative, and neutral comments. And the negative comments gets sent directly to our managers so that it can be lifetimes addressing the issue. So again, this is one example, where basically, I think without technology, I would have a lot of people looking at this Google review manually. But with the right technology, then, we can address the issue a lot faster, live practically.
Got it. Thank you. All right, we have 3 minutes, and we're a little bit behind schedule, I think, but I want to cover maybe one more question before we move on to Q&A. And this is regarding specifically about Indonesia, the market, expansion strategies for each of you. So when you look at Indonesia versus other markets, are there any unique factors among Indonesian consumers in operating an F&B brand here? Maybe we can start with Adrien, since you're already expanded into 7 countries and have that base knowledge in other markets as well.
I think, especially in today's environment, the expectation from the customer, I think, is very different than when we first launched. I think the market is obviously more saturated, but also they just keep you on your toes. So I think the amount of R&D that we do just for markets like Thailand, Indonesia, the Philippines is extraordinary compared to Singapore, Hong Kong. So that's one thing. I think constantly innovating. What we're seeing as well is developing new product categories that address a different audience. So if you try outside, we actually brought a product called Lean Toast, which is what we sell at 45,000 rupiah, which I think addresses again a different audience. But that is something that has been very exciting because we are seeing a whole new profile of customers enter the store. And then moving forward, I think for us, the opportunity will be going into secondary, tertiary cities, which we did prior to COVID. We were in Surabaya. That's where we'd want to go back to. And I think probably now with the other brands that are better suited in terms of price point and product.
Sure, thank you. And then to Bevin, I think fried chicken is a pretty universal dish. So I would imagine that you do have some global ambitions or expansion ambitions outside of Singapore. Could you maybe talk a little bit about that?
Yes, so we built Har Chicken because we believe fried chicken, we know fried chicken is one of the most popular dishes globally, regionally. And also fermented shrimp paste as an element is consumed in some form across Southeast Asia. So you've got terasi in Indonesia, belacan in Malaysia, and then kapi in Thailand. So it's a familiar flavor paired with a very popular base, which we've seen do well with, we've got Irvin's salted egg chips, things like that, bread talks, pork floss buns, chicken floss buns. So we believe it's something that could work well in Indonesia. Of course, we'll need to enter the market in a year or two before we can see whether it really pans out.
Gotcha, cool, good stuff. So we only have 1.5 minutes left. I'm gonna open it up to the audience for maybe 2 or 3 questions.
Hi, thank you very much for the very insightful panel. One question, Indonesia F&B franchise, right? It's the thing in Indonesia F&B. And I think out of the 4 of you, if I understand correctly, only UENA has a franchise model. I would like to get your opinion on, what's your thought on franchising. I know there are brands out there who raise investor money just to buy back their franchisees, right? Is it worth the effort? Is it not worth the effort? Is it something that we should do or we should not do? Thank you.
All right, so about franchise, I think there's a little bit of bad blood, let's say, according to the names. I think it is because of some players who are irresponsibly selling the franchise just for the sake of the franchise fee, I think. But for us, we are not really big on the franchise, but we have done a couple of successful ones, simply because we believe that we can partner with the right local players and with the right local neighborhoods, with the local heroes in the neighborhoods. So for us, like in our personal experience, I think as long as it is actually done right and you get the right partners, because for us it's a win-win situation where we actually bring the expertise of the food and the partner actually bringing the expertise of the local areas, it can be a really good synergy. But I cannot really speak for the other players out there because I really believe that there's some people who are actually taking advantage of the situation of the franchise model.
I think maybe I'll just add, I think it's a lot product related as well. For us, we have a very sensitive product that if we were to sub-franchise too much, I think it runs a big risk of becoming a problem. So we generally partner with large operators with that infrastructure, central kitchen in place.
I'm not a big believer of franchising. To be honest with you, I think we've had experience. I have outlets where we franchise, but at the end of the day, I think, I guess my team called me a dictator. I like to be in full control of the products. I don't like to leave it to chance. I just want to make sure that when I'm running my outlets, that it is as passionate to be run by owners as opposed to a lot of, again, franchisees that are not passionately running your brand. So, for me, in terms of expansion plan in Indonesia specifically, we are not, a big believer of franchising our brands.
Okay. I apologize for mismanaging time today. Time is up. So I just want to give a round of applause for the panelists today.